Hey, family, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Table podcast with Roberta. I am your host, Roberta, and I am so happy that you decided to come back to the table with me for another episode. On this episode, we will be discussing restoration. Now, I know reconciliation and restoration sometimes makes us feel that it's not going to happen or it is not possible. But I know that with God, all things are possible. With man, nothing is possible. And so I want to jump into this conversation today. I want to be intentional about it because when I think about so many families that are in isolation, that are in no contact modes, and all the things as it relates to separation, I wonder, is restoration possible? Is that a question that we are ready to answer, or we can even think about answering? Or what are the conditions around restoration when it comes to someone in your life that you've been isolated from, or you've just been distant from for a season or a time frame? Do you care to even talk about it? Is there a door open, a possibility of them returning back to that seat that you've saved for them or not even thought about it? I want to be intentional again about this conversation because when I think about sometimes families are broken and we don't know how to find our way back to each other, we don't know how to apologize. We don't even know sometimes why we're mad. And that word restoration becomes a bad word because we feel that there's no way I will ever speak to this person again, or there's no way I could ever ask for their forgiveness, or there's no way that the relationship I can trust this person again. The unexpected plans of life, when there's no opportunity for that to occur, then what? When that person dies and you never had the opportunity to say goodbye. So restoration would not be possible at that time. And so we got to think about what we see it as being and what is it that we can contribute to having the opportunity to sit down and to be intentional about those discussions, about those plans of reconciliation, or just to start again, a refresh or new start. So this episode is not really to just zero in on the families that are struggling to get back to that place. It may be time to do something different, to do something new, and be willing for allowing restoration to occur. Sometimes I think about when death occurs, we all gather, we come, we show up, and then there's another scattering after things begin to settle differently and a new norm with the people that lost their loved one. And so there's restoration in that, bringing people together in that mode. But what about when there is a need to reserve a seat, and where we're sitting down and really working on the brokenness of a family that needs to have the conversation at the table to get the tools that they need to move past the table, which is why this podcast is called Beyond the Table, because we are at the table to have the discussions, to do the dialogue, destiny dialogues, those conversations, those colorful conversations. We're not worrying about coloring inside the lines. It doesn't matter. We're not checking it. We're not grading how we color, but these conversations have to be raw, and they are sometimes rare because sometimes we're not bold enough to even have the conversations that are needed for restoration of our family, to bring the healing, to bring the wholeness. And as I said briefly before, when there's still an opportunity, because the unexpected things do occur. No one is here forever. And so family is important. Family is important to God, and family should be important to us. So let's talk about it, family. Let's talk about this discussion where we go to the table with our families, with our friends, our loved ones, and we ask them, is there anything in my relationship with you that needs healing, that needs restoration? It's time to talk about it. Again, I am your host, Roberta. And until the next time, I will save your seat, because this table is for you.